What happens when one of the most controversial rappers in music history sits down at a live daytime talk show table, and the conversation turns personal faster than anyone expected? What starts as a tense discussion about celebrity influence, censorship, and public responsibility quickly spirals into one of the most uncomfortable exchanges daytime television has seen in years. Make sure to subscribe to Talk Show Fallout and like and comment for more talk show coverage. The audience applauds as Eminem walks onto the stage, giving a short wave before taking a seat at the table. The energy already feels different. Some people in the crowd are cheering loudly, while others sit watching carefully, waiting to see how the segment is going to unfold. Joy Behar smiles politely, but wastes very little time getting into the conversation. "So Marshall, first of all, thanks for being here." Eminem nods. "Thanks for having me." Whoopi Goldberg leans slightly forward. "You don't do shows like this often." "No," Eminem says with a small grin. "Usually because I know what happens." The audience laughs softly. Joy immediately jumps in. "Well, maybe that's because people tend to ask difficult questions." Eminem shrugs. "Depends on what kind of difficult." Sunny Hostin looks toward him. "You've had a career where people either absolutely love your honesty or think you've crossed lines over and over again. Do you understand why some people still feel uncomfortable with some of your lyrics?" Eminem nods slowly. "Yeah, I understand it. I've always understood it. But I also think people hear pieces of songs without hearing context." Joy cuts in quickly. "But context only goes so far when millions of young people are listening." The crowd reacts with a mix of applause and murmurs. Eminem looks over calmly. "See, that's usually where these conversations start going sideways." Joy raises her eyebrows. "Why? Because somebody challenges you." "No," he says. "Because people act like music created every problem in society." Joy shakes her head immediately. "Nobody said that. But it's implied all the time," Eminem responds. "Every time there's a conversation about violence, language, anger, culture, somehow music gets dragged in like artists are personally responsible for everybody's decisions." Sarah Haynes tries to soften the moment. "I think what Joy's asking is whether entertainers have a responsibility because of influence." Eminem nods. "Everybody has influence. Politicians do. News networks do. Talk shows do. Social media does. But somehow musicians get singled out more than almost anybody." Joy leans forward. "Because musicians shape culture. And television doesn't?" Eminem shoots back. The audience lets out an audible, "Oh." Whoopi quickly steps in. All right, everybody breathe for a second." Joy laughs awkwardly. "I'm breathing fine." Eminem smirks slightly, but says nothing. Sunny looks at Eminem carefully. "Do you think there's ever a point where lyrics can go too far?" "Sure," he answers. "Anything can go too far. Comedy can. Movies can. Television can. Politics definitely can." Joy interrupts again. "But you built an entire career on shock. And honesty," Eminem replies immediately. Joy shakes her head. "Some people wouldn't call it honesty. What would they call it? Provocation." Eminem pauses for a second before answering. "You know what's funny? People only love honesty when it's clean and comfortable. The second it sounds angry or ugly, or comes from somebody they don't relate to, suddenly it's dangerous." A few audience members clap loudly. Joy folds her arms slightly. "I don't think anger excuses harmful messaging. And I don't think pretending problems don't exist fixes anything," Eminem replies. The tension at the table noticeably rises. Whoopi looks toward the audience for a moment before speaking again. "This is why people wanted this conversation." Joy turns back toward Eminem. "You've said controversial things about women, celebrities, politics. So have hosts on this show." Eminem cuts in. The audience erupts louder this time. Joy looks surprised. "Excuse me?" "I'm serious," Eminem says calmly. "Everybody at this table has said things people considered offensive at some point. The difference is when musicians do it, suddenly there's this national emergency discussion." Sunny interjects carefully. "I think there's a difference between commentary and entertainment. But entertainment reflects reality," Eminem says. "Half the stuff I wrote came from real emotions, real chaos, real frustration." Joy points toward him. "But millions of people consumed it as entertainment." "Okay," he replies. "And millions of people consume angry political television every single day too." The audience reacts again, louder now. Whoopi sighs. "This is getting hot fast." Eminem laughs slightly. "I told you." Joy shakes her head. "You seem defensive." "No," he says calmly. I'm just tired of selective outrage. There's a short silence at the table. Sarah looks toward Joy. I think what he's saying is society picks certain targets. Joy responds immediately. No, I understand what he's saying. I just don't completely agree with it. Eminem nods. That's fair. Joy looks surprised by the calm response. Okay, but disagreement's different than pretending one industry caused cultural collapse, he continues. Joy laughs lightly. Nobody said cultural collapse. You don't have to say it directly, Eminem replies. You can hear it in the framing. Sonny glances between both of them. Do you feel misunderstood by mainstream media? Eminem leans back slightly. For years. Absolutely. Why? Because outrage sells better than nuance. The audience claps again. Joy rolls her eyes slightly. Oh, come on, that sounds convenient. It's true, though, Eminem says. People don't clip thoughtful conversations online. They clip conflict. At that exact moment, the audience laughs because the irony is obvious. Whoopi smiles. He's not wrong about that. Joy points jokingly toward Whoopi. Don't encourage him. Whoopi laughs. I'm just saying. Eminem glances toward the crowd. Half the internet already decided what this interview was going to be before I even walked out here. Sonny nods slowly. That's probably true. Joy leans in again. But you also benefit from controversy. So does television. Eminem fires back instantly. Another loud audience reaction breaks out. Joy pauses this time before speaking again. That's not entirely unfair. The room quiets slightly. Sarah smiles awkwardly. We found one point of agreement. Whoopi laughs. Mark the calendar. Eminem shakes his head with a grin. Look, I'm not saying I've never crossed lines. I know I have. I'm saying people act like artists exist in a vacuum, while every other industry gets excuses. Joy responds carefully this time. But artists are powerful. So are media personalities. The tension returns immediately. Joy's expression tightens slightly. Are you comparing rappers to journalists now? I'm comparing influence to influence. Sonny looks intrigued now rather than confrontational. That's actually an interesting distinction. Joy turns toward Sonny. No, because journalism is supposed to challenge power. Eminem responds before Sonny can answer. And music challenges culture. The crowd applauds loudly again. Joy shakes her head again but smiles slightly this time, almost amused by how quickly the exchange keeps escalating. You always have an answer. No, Eminem says quietly. I just spent years getting blamed for things bigger than music. There's a brief silence after that line. Even Joy pauses. Whoopi looks toward him more seriously now. Do you think people ever misunderstood the difference between performance and real life? All the time, Eminem says immediately. People treated songs like courtroom evidence. Joy replies, because words matter. And intent matters too, Eminem says. The audience murmurs in agreement while the tension at the table stays heavy. Whoopi glances toward producers off stage for a moment before looking back at the table. We gotta take a quick break, she says carefully. But clearly this conversation is just getting started. The audience applauds loudly while the camera pulls back slightly. Joy adjusts her papers without saying anything while Eminem takes a sip of water, still staring calmly across the table as the atmosphere remains tense heading into commercial break. Writing the audience applause continues as the show returns from commercial break. But the atmosphere at the table feels noticeably heavier now. Even before anyone speaks, viewers can tell the conversation during the break probably did not cool things down very much. Whoopi smiles professionally toward the camera. We're back with Eminem, and before the break we were talking about influence, accountability, media, and apparently everybody being uncomfortable. The audience laughs nervously. Joy Behar adjusts her notes and immediately jumps back in. Well, I think it's important not to confuse criticism with censorship. Eminem nods slowly. I agree with that. Joy looks slightly surprised by the quick agreement. Okay, but criticism goes both ways, Eminem continues. That's the part people forget. Sonny Hostin leans in. What do you mean? I mean artists get analyzed constantly, Eminem says. Every lyric, every interview, every mistake. But when entertainers or television personalities say reckless things, suddenly it's just discussion or just opinion. Joy responds immediately. You're still comparing very different platforms. How? Eminem asks calmly. Because journalism and public discourse are supposed to ask difficult questions. And music isn't allowed to, he replies. The audience reacts again. Joy folds her arms. Music can ask questions. But some of your material went beyond asking questions. Eminem looks directly at her. You mean because it made people uncomfortable? Yes, Joy says firmly. So does this conversation. The crowd lets out another loud reaction. Whoopi raises both hands slightly. Okay, all right. But Joy keeps going. No, because there's a difference between discomfort that challenges people intellectually and discomfort that's just offensive for shock value. Eminem leans forward for the first time since the interview began. You know what's interesting? People always decide what counts as important discomfort based on whether they personally like the messenger. The audience applauds loudly. Sarah Haynes glances toward Joy carefully. He does have a point there. Joy turns toward Sarah. I'm not saying artists can't challenge people. I'm saying there should still be accountability. There is accountability, Eminem says immediately. People protested albums. Radio stations banned songs. Politicians talked about me like I was a public threat. Sonny nods slowly. That definitely happened. Joy shrugs slightly. And maybe some people believed those criticisms were valid. Sure, Eminem says. But some people also wanted somebody to blame for larger social problems. Whoopi looks toward him carefully. Do you still feel angry about that? Eminem pauses before answering. I think I got tired of being turned into a symbol for every cultural argument. The room gets quieter for a moment. Joy responds more carefully now. But didn't you also lean into that image sometimes? Absolutely, he admits. I was younger, angry, reckless. I'm not pretending I handled everything perfectly. That answer shifts the mood slightly. Sonny nods. That's probably the first thing today everybody agrees with. The audience laughs softly. Eminem smirks. I've never claimed perfection. Joy looks at him closely. Then let me ask you something directly. When you look back at some of those older songs now, do you regret any of them? There's a noticeable pause. Even the audience quiets down. Eminem thinks for a second before answering. I regret pain I caused people close to me sometimes. Yeah, but creatively? No. Joy immediately jumps in. Really? No, he says firmly. Because those songs came from where I was mentally at the time. But does authenticity excuse everything? Joy asks. No, Eminem replies. But honesty matters. Joy shakes her head slightly. I think sometimes people confuse honesty with cruelty. And sometimes people confuse discomfort with harm, Eminem says back instantly. The audience reacts loudly again. Whoopi sighs jokingly. This table's gonna explode before noon. Sarah laughs nervously. I'm trying to survive over here. Sonny turns toward Eminem. Do you think culture today is more sensitive than when you first became famous? Eminem laughs quietly. That's a dangerous question on daytime television. The audience bursts into laughter. Whoopi points toward him jokingly. Answer carefully. Eminem smiles. I think people are more public now. Everybody reacts instantly to everything. Joy cuts in. That sounds like avoiding the question. No, he says calmly. I think outrage became entertainment. That line gets one of the loudest reactions so far. Joy responds immediately. You contributed to outrage culture. So did cable news, Eminem fires back. The audience erupts again. Whoopi leans back laughing in disbelief. He came ready today. Joy shakes her head while smiling tightly. No, because what he keeps doing is shifting blame instead of acknowledging influence. I acknowledged influence already, Eminem replies. I'm saying influence exists everywhere. Sonny looks thoughtful now. Do you think celebrity culture itself creates unrealistic expectations for artists? Definitely, Eminem says. People want artists to be raw and authentic until the raw part gets ugly. Joy interrupts again. But there's also responsibility once you become powerful. And there's responsibility when you have a daily national platform too, Eminem says immediately. The crowd reacts once more. Joy laughs shortly. You really want to turn this interview around on us? No, Eminem says calmly. I'm saying accountability should apply evenly. There's another pause. Whoopi watches both of them carefully now because the tension has become impossible to ignore. Sonny tries steering things slightly differently. You know, one thing people say about you is that despite all the controversy, you've always been brutally self-aware in your music. Eminem nods slightly. Probably too self-aware. The audience laughs lightly. Sonny continues. Do you think people sometimes miss the vulnerability because they focused on the shock? All the time, Eminem says immediately. People heard anger louder than pain. That line changes the energy again. Even Joy pauses before responding. Well, pain doesn't automatically justify every response to it. No, Eminem says quietly. But pretending pain should always sound polite isn't realistic either. The audience applauds again. Sarah nods slowly. That's probably true for a lot of people, honestly. Joy looks toward the audience reactions and then back toward Eminem. But do you understand why some parents were genuinely worried back then? Of course, he says. I'm a parent myself. Joy seems caught slightly off guard by the calmer answer. But I also think parents were dealing with bigger issues than rap lyrics, Eminem continues. Music became an easier target than deeper conversations. Whoopi nods slightly this time. That's not completely wrong. Joy looks toward Whoopi. You're agreeing with him a lot today. Whoopi shrugs. I'm agreeing where I agree. The audience applauds. Joy laughs awkwardly. Okay then. Eminem leans back slightly again, but the tension never fully leaves the table. Sonny asks another question carefully. Do you think artists today are more cautious because of backlash culture? Absolutely, Eminem says. Everybody's calculating now. And you think that's bad? Joy asks. I think fear changes art. Joy responds instantly. Or maybe accountability changes art. And maybe fear gets disguised as accountability sometimes, Eminem replies. The audience reacts loudly once again. Sarah covers her face, briefly laughing. Every answer just starts another argument. Whoopi laughs too. That's because nobody here wants to lose. Joy turns toward Eminem again. Do you think you've ever crossed moral lines in your music? Eminem pauses again. Probably. The audience quiets slightly. But I also think art has always crossed lines, he continues. Books did. Movies did. Stand-up comedy did. Music did. Joy replies, but art also evolves. It should, Eminem agrees. But evolution and fear aren't the same thing. Sonny nods thoughtfully. That's actually a really important distinction. Joy sighs. I still think there's a tendency from some celebrities to hide behind art whenever criticism comes. And there's a tendency from media to decide which voices are dangerous based on personal preference. Eminem shoots back. Another loud audience reaction. The tension is now fully dominating the room. Whoopi glances toward the producers offstage again, as if checking timing. Joy notices it too and laughs slightly. Are they nervous back there yet? Whoopi smirks. Little bit. The audience laughs. But Eminem suddenly gets more serious again. You know what honestly bothers me the most, he says. The table quiets immediately. What? Sonny asks. That people only talk about artists being influential when it's negative. Joy looks at him carefully now. What do you mean? I've donated quietly for years. Helped people quietly. Supported communities quietly. A lot of artists do. But controversy always becomes the headline because conflict gets ratings. The audience applauds loudly. Even Joy doesn't interrupt immediately this time. Whoopi nods slowly. That's true about media in general. Joy sighs. Well, controversy also gets attention because people react emotionally. Exactly, Eminem says. And everybody participates in it. The room gets quiet again for a second. Then Joy leans forward one more time. But if you know that, then why continue feeding it? Eminem stares at her calmly before answering. Because sometimes speaking honestly costs something. The audience reacts loudly again, while the tension at the table becomes almost uncomfortable. Whoopi looks toward the camera carefully. We're going to take another quick break. Joy shuffles her papers while Eminem stays completely still, staring ahead as the audience keeps buzzing loudly about the exchange that just unfolded. Even during the applause heading into commercial, cameras catch audience members arguing quietly with each other in the crowd, while the hosts avoid eye contact for a few tense seconds before the show cuts away. Writing when the show returns from commercial again, the energy in the studio feels completely different now. The audience applause is louder, but mixed with obvious tension, like everyone realizes the conversation has moved far beyond a normal celebrity interview. Whoopi smiles toward the camera, though even she looks slightly exhausted trying to manage the discussion. We are back with Eminem, and apparently nobody at this table plans on relaxing today. The audience laughs loudly. Eminem smiles slightly. I can relax. Joy Behar immediately responds. Really? Because you seem pretty worked up. The audience reacts instantly. Eminem turns toward her calmly. You keep confusing calm with silence. A louder reaction breaks out across the studio. Sarah Haynes quietly mutters, oh boy. Whoopi leans back laughing. See, this is why producers hate live television. Joy shakes her head but smiles tightly. No, I'm serious. Every question turns into an argument about media. Because media shapes public perception, Eminem replies. That's reality. Sunny Hostin steps in carefully. But artists shape public perception too. Absolutely, Eminem says. I've never denied that. Joy jumps back in. Then why does every criticism sound unfair to you? It doesn't, Eminem answers immediately. Selective criticism sounds unfair. The audience applauds again. Joy points toward him. That phrase right there, selective criticism. You keep saying that. Who exactly do you think gets protected? The room gets quieter immediately. Eminem pauses before answering carefully. People with the right image. Joy laughs shortly. That sounds vague. It's not vague, Eminem says. There are artists, celebrities, public figures who say reckless things constantly, but whether society forgives them depends on who they are, what audience they have, and whether people personally like them. Sunny nods slowly. There's definitely truth to that. Joy looks toward Sunny. You agree with him? I think public reaction is inconsistent sometimes, Sunny replies carefully. Eminem continues. Look at how differently anger gets treated, depending on who expresses it. Joy responds immediately. Are you saying you were treated unfairly because you're a rapper? I'm saying certain forms of expression scare people more than others. The audience murmurs in agreement. Whoopi watches the exchange closely now, clearly aware the conversation is getting more personal. Joy leans forward again. But some people would say you benefited from being controversial. I did, Eminem admits immediately. That answer catches Joy slightly off guard again. But benefiting from controversy doesn't mean every criticism was honest, he continues. Sarah looks intrigued now. That's actually a fair distinction. Joy shakes her head. I still think there's a tendency among celebrities to play victim after becoming wildly successful. Eminem laughs quietly. There it is. What? Joy asks. The idea that success cancels criticism. Joy responds quickly. No, the idea that people with enormous platforms sometimes act persecuted. And people with enormous platforms sometimes pretend they don't influence culture either. Eminem fires back. The audience erupts loudly again. Whoopi puts both hands up. Okay. But Joy keeps going. No, because this conversation keeps circling around accountability, and every time we get there, you redirect it toward television. Because television participates in the exact same culture, Eminem replies. Joy folds her arms. You really believe daytime talk shows shape society the same way music does? Yes. The directness of the answer stuns the table for a second. Even the audience goes quiet briefly. Whoopi breaks the silence first. That was fast. Eminem shrugs. It's true. Joy laughs incredulously. So now this show is responsible for social problems too? I didn't say that, Eminem replies calmly. I said influence exists everywhere. But some industries get framed as dangerous while others get framed as informative. Sunny nods thoughtfully again. That's actually a really complicated conversation. Joy turns toward Sunny again. You're giving him way too much credit. Sunny laughs awkwardly. I'm just listening. Eminem glances toward the audience. That's part of the issue now. Nobody listens. Everybody reacts. The crowd applauds loudly. Sarah points jokingly toward the audience. He's winning them over. Joy smirks. For now. Eminem smiles slightly. This isn't a competition. Joy immediately replies. Everything on television becomes a competition. That line gets applause too. Whoopi laughs. Now that's true. The tension eases for a few seconds before Joy changes direction again. You know, one thing critics always said about you was that you normalized hostility. Eminem looks directly at her. Toward who? Joy. Answers firmly. Toward women sometimes. Toward celebrities. Toward public figures. And media never does that, he asks immediately. Joy exhales loudly. There you go again. No, seriously, Eminem says. Every night people go on television attacking politicians, celebrities, athletes, artists. Entire industries are built on outrage and mockery. Sunny looks toward Joy carefully. He's not entirely wrong about that. Joy shakes her head. There's still a difference between critique and glorifying aggression. Eminem leans forward slightly again. You know what I think people really hated? What? Joy asks. That I sounded angry in a way people weren't used to hearing publicly. The audience quiets again. Eminem continues speaking more seriously now. A lot of people connected with my music because they were angry too. Poor, frustrated, isolated, ignored. But instead of asking why so many people related to that anger, Society focused on whether the music itself was dangerous. Whoopi nods slowly. That's deeper than people usually discuss. Joy responds carefully this time. But anger can still influence behavior. Of course, Eminem says. Everything influences behavior. Joy looks frustrated now. You keep broadening the conversation so responsibility disappears. No, Eminem replies. I'm broadening it because responsibility belongs to more than one group. The audience applauds again. Sarah looks toward Joy. I think he's arguing against being singled out. Joy shakes her head. And I think he avoids answering direct moral questions. Eminem laughs softly. No, I answer them. You just don't like the answers. The audience reacts loudly again. Whoopi leans back in disbelief, laughing. This man came with ammunition today. Joy smirks despite herself. Clearly. Sonny steps in again before the tension rises further. Do you think today's younger artists face more pressure than your generation did? Way more, Eminem answers immediately. Why? Because now every mistake becomes permanent instantly. The audience murmurs. Eminem continues. Back then controversy happened through newspapers, magazines, TV coverage. Now one clip lives online forever. Joy responds. But some people would argue that creates accountability. And some people become terrified to speak honestly because of it, Eminem replies. Sarah nods slowly. There's definitely fear now. Joy sighs. But maybe fear of consequences isn't always bad. Depends what the consequences are, Eminem says. Sonny asks carefully, do you think public discourse is healthier now or worse? Eminem laughs quietly again. Worse. Joy jumps in immediately. Why? Because everybody performs outrage instead of communicating. That line gets another loud audience reaction. Whoopi points jokingly toward the audience. Y'all better not clip that one. The audience laughs loudly. Joy responds again. But outrage existed before social media. Sure, Eminem says. But now outrage became identity. The room quiets slightly again. Sonny looks thoughtful. That's actually interesting. Joy folds her arms again. Or maybe people are finally holding public figures accountable in ways they didn't before. And sometimes they absolutely should, Eminem agrees. Joy pauses briefly at the agreement. But sometimes outrage becomes entertainment disguised as morality, he continues. The audience applauds loudly once again. Whoopi glances toward the producers and then back toward the table. You know this conversation's gonna live online for weeks. Sarah laughs nervously. Minimum. Joy looks toward Eminem again, more serious now than earlier. Do you ever worry about your legacy? Eminem pauses longer this time. Yeah. The room gets noticeably quieter. How? Joy asks. Because legacy gets simplified, he says. People reduce human beings into headlines or controversies. Sonny nods slowly again. That's probably true for most public figures. Eminem continues. People forget artists are complicated. Messy. Flawed. Joy responds carefully. But public impact matters too. Absolutely, he says. I just think society decides whose flaws are forgivable based on popularity. The audience applauds again. Joy stares at him for a second before speaking again. So after everything, all the criticism, protests, controversies, do you think you were misunderstood? Eminem leans back quietly. Partly. Only partly? Joy asks. Yeah, he says calmly. Some criticism was fair. Some wasn't. That's the honest answer. That response shifts the mood slightly again. Even Joy seems surprised by how direct it is. Whoopi smiles slightly. That might be the most agreement we've had all hour. The audience laughs. But Joy isn't finished yet. Then let me ask one final thing before we wrap up. Eminem nods. Do you think your career could even happen in today's climate? The audience immediately reacts because everyone understands the weight of the question. Eminem pauses for several long seconds before finally answering. No, the room goes completely quiet. Even Joy looks caught off guard by how serious the answer sounds. Sonny asks softly, why not? Because now people react before they listen. The audience stays quiet. Eminem continues calmly. And honestly, maybe I would have reacted differently too if I grew up in this era. I don't know. That vulnerability changes the atmosphere at the table for the first time all interview. Even Joy softens slightly. Whoopi looks toward the camera as producers begin signaling the segment is almost out of time. We'll be right back after this. The applause starts again, but this time it sounds different. Less chaotic, more reflective. while the cameras catch audience members whispering intensely to each other as the show heads into its final commercial break. When the show returns for the final segment, the energy in the studio feels strangely split. Some audience members are leaning forward waiting for another confrontation, while others seem more reflective after the last exchange. Even the hosts appear calmer now, though the tension from earlier still hangs over the table. Whoopi Goldberg looks toward the camera and smiles carefully. We're back with Eminem, and this has definitely been one of the more intense conversations we've had at this table in a while. The audience applauds loudly. Joy Behar laughs softly. That's one way to describe it. Eminem smiles slightly, but looks noticeably more relaxed than earlier. Whoopi glances toward him. I think everybody watching can tell this conversation touched a nerve in a lot of different ways. Eminem nods. Probably. Sunny Hostin leans forward. I'll say this, whether people agree or disagree, at least this was an honest discussion. The audience applauds again. Joy responds carefully this time. I actually agree with that. Eminem looks over at her with a small grin. That might be our biggest breakthrough today. The audience laughs loudly. Even Joy laughs. Don't push it. Sarah Haynes smiles. Honestly, I think people miss conversations like this. Real disagreement without everybody storming off stage. Whoopi points jokingly toward Sarah. The show's not over yet. The audience laughs again, but the atmosphere has shifted. The sharp tension from earlier has cooled into something more reflective and grounded. Joy looks toward Eminem again. Despite all the arguing today, I do think one reason people still care about your career is because you've never sounded manufactured. Eminem nods slowly. I appreciate that. Joy continues. I still disagree with some of the things you've said over the years. I know, he replies calmly. But I can also admit the conversation around censorship, outrage, media, and influence is more complicated now than it used to be. That line gets applause from the audience. Whoopi smiles slightly. Growth on daytime television. Amazing. The audience laughs again. Sunny turns toward Eminem. Do you think conversations like this are becoming harder to have publicly? Definitely, he says immediately. Why? Because everybody expects total agreement now, Eminem replies. And if somebody disagrees, people instantly divide into teams. Sarah nods. That's true online especially. Eminem continues. Nobody listens long enough to understand context anymore. They react to clips, headlines, tweets. Joy smiles slightly. Well, after today, there are definitely going to be clips. The audience bursts into laughter. Whoopi shakes her head laughing too. Millions of clips. Eminem smirks. I figured. Sunny asks another question carefully. Do interviews like this ever make you nervous? Eminem pauses briefly before answering honestly. Yeah, that answer surprises the table slightly. Joy raises her eyebrows. Really? Of course, he says. Because no matter what you say, somebody's going to hear the worst version of it. The audience murmurs in agreement. Whoopi nods slowly. That's probably true for everybody sitting here too. Joy laughs quietly, especially after social media gets involved. Sarah points toward the audience jokingly. Half the internet's already arguing right now. The crowd laughs and applauds. Whoopi looks toward Eminem more seriously now. One thing I'll say is this conversation felt less like celebrity promotion and more like an actual debate about culture. That's because it is, Eminem replies. People act like entertainment exists separately from society, but it doesn't. Joy nods slightly. And neither does media. There's a brief pause after that. Eminem looks toward her. Exactly. The audience applauds again, louder this time because it feels like a genuine moment of agreement after nearly an hour of tension. Sunny smiles. Well, there it is. We finally got somewhere. Whoopi laughs. Took long enough. But then Joy asks one final question. When all this airs online later tonight and people start arguing about who was right and who was wrong, what do you think they'll miss most about this conversation? The room gets quieter again. Eminem thinks carefully before answering. That nobody here actually hated each other. The audience applauds loudly. Eminem continues calmly. People see disagreement now and immediately assume it's war. But real conversations are messy. People interrupt each other. They disagree. They get frustrated. Joy nods slowly. That's true. And honestly, Eminem says, I'd rather people argue honestly than fake agreement for cameras. That line gets one of the biggest applause breaks of the entire interview. Whoopi smiles. That might be the quote everybody remembers. Joy laughs softly. Unfortunately for me. The audience laughs loudly again. Sarah looks toward the crowd. You can already tell people are going to be debating this all week. Whoopi nods. Absolutely. The producers begin signaling that the segment is almost over. But the atmosphere now feels far calmer than the explosive first half of the interview. Sunny turns toward Eminem one last time. Despite everything, would you do this again? Eminem laughs. Ask me tomorrow. The audience erupts laughing and applauding. Whoopi points toward him jokingly. Smart answer. Joy shakes her head smiling. Very smart answer. As the applause continues, Whoopi looks toward the camera. We want to thank Eminem for joining us today. The audience applauds loudly again while Eminem gives a small nod toward the crowd. But even after the official segment ends, cameras continue catching reactions around the studio. Some audience members stand clapping while others immediately pull out phones, already talking excitedly about specific moments from the debate. The show cuts to a wider shot as producers begin moving around the set, but microphones still catch small pieces of conversation. That was intense. He actually made some good points. Joy wasn't backing down at all. I didn't expect Eminem to stay that calm. The online reaction starts almost instantly. Within minutes, clips from the interview begin spreading across social media platforms. Short videos of Eminem saying, "Outrage became entertainment," and "You keep confusing calm with silence," rack up millions of views in hours. Some viewers praise Joy Behar for challenging him directly and refusing to soften tough questions. Others praise Eminem for staying composed while defending his perspective under pressure. Comment sections explode with debate. Best interview Eminem's done in years. Joy asked the questions people wanted answered. He completely flipped the conversation around. This is what real discussion is supposed to look like. Others argue the segment revealed a larger issue in media culture itself, with hashtags related to censorship, celebrity accountability, and outrage culture trending throughout the night. Entertainment websites begin publishing headlines within the hour. Eminem and Joy Behar clash during heated live TV debate. Explosive daytime TV exchange goes viral. Fans divided after tense Eminem interview. Even other celebrities begin reacting online. Some praise the honesty of the conversation, while others criticize parts of the debate. Political commentators, music bloggers, and television critics all begin weighing in, each framing the interview differently depending on their audience. By the next morning, clips from the interview dominate trending pages across multiple platforms. Talk radio discusses it. Podcasts break it down. Reaction channels upload frame-by-frame analysis of the biggest moments. Some viewers focus on Eminem's comments about media and outrage culture. Others focus on Joy refusing to let him avoid difficult topics. Many viewers simply say they were shocked daytime television still allowed conversations that raw and uncomfortable to happen live. Backstage reports also begin surfacing online. Anonymous audience members describe the atmosphere in the studio as electric and unpredictable. One claims producers looked nervous during every commercial break because nobody knew how far the debate would go. Another audience member posts online that despite the tension on camera, Eminem and Joy reportedly spoke respectfully offstage once filming ended. That detail surprises many viewers who assumed the confrontation had become personal. But perhaps the biggest reaction comes from viewers saying the interview felt real. Not rehearsed. Not overly polished. Not carefully controlled. Just two strong personalities arguing openly about culture, media, accountability, fame, and public influence in a way audiences rarely see anymore on television. By the end of the week, the interview becomes one of the most discussed daytime TV moments of the year. And even though viewers remain divided about who won the debate, most agree on one thing. People could not stop watching. Make sure to share your opinion in the comments and subscribe to Talk Show Fallout for more real talk show stories.